So before we get into UFC 318 and all the other action and combat sports from this past week, we didn't get a chance to talk about this because we didn't do an episode last week. But Conor McGregor was in the news once again, and I just wanted to tell you the story of how I first heard about this, because it wasn't just through scrolling on Instagram or something, seeing the headline. So I don't know if a lot of people know this because I don't think we really talk about it much on the show, but you run the Herd Handbook Twitter. So when I'm on Twitter, it's just like for my own personal use. So because of that, like I just don't go on there that much. I don't know. I've never really found it that interesting. Sometimes I'll go on there and just repost stuff from us, but that's really it. And then so I go on Twitter for what I swear was probably the first time in like 3 to 4 months. And I'm like, let's just scroll through today. Let's see what's going on. And so I open Twitter. First thing on my feed is Conor McGregor with his hammer out. And I was like, this was in the morning too. And I'm like, what a way to start my day. And I'm like, it can only go uphill from here, hopefully. But it's just such a negative way,
bro. This is my first
I almost threw my phone. It was like a shock. Like, it wasn't disappointment like it usually is seeing recent Conor McGregor headlines. Like, I just went on Twitter, and it was like when you see like a bug on your hand or something, you're just like, oh, like I was like that in a way. And it startled me. I was a bit disturbed. Not surprised though. Can you really be surprised at this point with him? Not surprised, motherfucker. No, but yeah. So that I just want to talk a little bit about that first. I know you're not shocked by it either. Well, maybe you're shocked by like the way that it happened, but I think like when you sit there and process it, you're like, he's probably done that before.
Yeah.
I didn't like the weight though. That made me pretty uncomfortable.
I was surprised that it hadn't happened already. And it was like, whoa, this is the least surprising thing Conor McGregor's done recently. It's still when you see it, it's just like, what in the actual fuck is going on right now?
Yeah, and then like you still got morons who come up to us, when's he coming back, dude? I'm like,
yeah, really.
Like, don't hold your breath. Like, do you really? Do you need to see it? Like, do you need to see it come? Like, I don't know. I have no interest in it. But
all that coke, those brain cells are all gone now too. So I don't think
hard out there.
Yeah, I don't see a return happening. I just don't see it, man.
Well, I say we, get off the McGregor talk. I just wanted to let the viewers in on my experience with seeing him naked for the first time. But so let's talk about the current day fighters who deserve all of our respect.
Yeah.
And let's talk about.
Well, you know what? Like, how do you think if? Well, it's funny because I don't think press people have asked this, but obviously.
I think they're done asking Dana about Conor.
Yeah,
so, like, what are they going to ask?
That's what I thought.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
Have you seen it before?
That's what I was thinking right now. Like, what if they were actually? I wonder if someone actually did ask, like, what would the answer be?
Dana would be like, "It's huge, of course. I mean, it's amazing to look at." If he comes back and fights at the White House, I would get on my knees and suck it myself.
You're gonna use it as the next poster. As for the next card that he's on.
It's like because it'll be one of those ones where it's like the full body thing where they're both like standing forward, and like one will just be like a fighter with their Venom UFC. Hopefully be Chandler with his UFC Venom shorts, and then just Conor with a weight on his penis on the other side.
Chael Sonnen goes, I just couldn't stop looking at it.
Dude, Chael and his take on this whole thing. That was another funny part. I was on my lunch break at work just scrolling through my subscriptions on YouTube, and I see that video with Chael Sonnen. I just can't stop looking at Conor McGregor's dick, and it's just the thumbnail is Conor, like, it's only from the waist up, thank God, and then it's just Chael, like, he's the best. I gotta say, he's the best. Yeah, man, what a week. And that was pretty much the start of the week. And then, you go on during fight week for UFC 318. What a story to start that off. And then, we get Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. And besides that, though, a lot of the fans were really crapping on this card and saying that it was like a glorified Apex card, and I'm like, I don't know about that. It kind of made me mad during the week because UFC 318 was just getting disrespected because, for one, obviously everybody knows that main event was awesome, but for everybody kind of talking about the star power on the rest of the card, those are casuals in my opinion, because when you see some of these names, they might not be the biggest names in the sport, but I think the UFC did a really good job in making really fun stylistic matchups for this one. A lot of fan.
But on the other hand, I get it in the sense that, okay, well, they go to Abu Dhabi, and usually the Abu Dhabi cards are pretty big, so they're probably thinking like, oh, if I have to pay to watch this card, then why not just make this fight night, and then another card with more name value, star power as the pay-per-view.
Yeah, true, because that one's probably, if I had to guess, I would assume the Abu Dhabi card is on at least normal ESPN.
In a way,
so more eyes.
This is not how the more casual fan goes about it, but also in a way it does come off as like a call for UFC to get back to strengthening their pay-per-view model and really doing because for this card, I mean, the writing was already on the wall with this being Dustin Poirier's last fight, and you already have the gimmick belt that you can use for promotion. So
yeah, I don't even want to trash that fight with that dumb belt that they keep using. Nate Diaz, I really hope they're paying him royalties.
Yeah,
because
they probably should. Yeah, but they also had it in Louisiana, and I think part of why UFC's pay-per-view model and just cards in general kind of feel less in terms of stories and a storyline to follow, why they feel less important is because, for one, they're not really going to. So like Dricus du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev, for instance, just in Chicago, whereas imagine obviously now in South Africa they're not going to have these crazy big arenas, but just the principle of in a fighter's hometown and whatnot, and you have this guy who's super cocky and generally not that well liked amongst. I mean, obviously as a fighter, everyone loves.
I was gonna say, I think a lot of hardcore fans.
But the guy, Chimaev as a character, yeah,
I thought you were talking about DDP for a second.
No.
I think everybody likes him.
Yeah, the other way around. So that's kind of just them getting at here. It made all the sense in the world. They couldn't mess up Dustin Poirier's last fight, pretty much. You couldn't give Dustin Poirier let's think at the top of our head who other potential names they would give Dustin Poirier.
Gaethje was the other one that was being thrown around there.
Okay.
And I don't think that anyone really wanted to see
but it's
Poirier
you had
Patty or something.
This no way, especially with Patty in his day. And Patty, I think if Patty kind of, not to say obviously Patty's on Max Holloway's level, but if Patty fought with the pace and the precision that Max Holloway had in this fight, then he would have probably knocked out Dustin Poirier. So
really?
I kind of, if he gets him to the ground, then
I just don't think it's proven yet with him. I need to see Patty fight someone who's a lot better than the competition that he's fought. Chandler made me believe a lot more, but I still need to see another.
Well, I think this fight still had something to fall because you had the first two fights, and you had the first one all the way over a decade ago at 145.
13 years.
And then the next fight for the interim belt at 155. So, and then Dustin Poirier winning both times. So here they are again, and now Max, we'll use the belt. We'll use the belt in this instance. Max has the belt and all that. He's the guy that if Dustin Poirier were to keep fighting, then he would obviously be well in line for a title shot, but that's not the case. So I think it was really easy to make this. I don't think UFC had to go all out to make this fight as important as it should have been.
I just think the event was centered around Dustin Poirier so much that I don't think it's that they didn't worry about the rest of the card, but it's I don't think they wanted to overshadow what he means to the UFC and to the sport, and I think that they really tried to
which is
make
good.
The main event
I think
pop.
they can. I think they could obviously continue to build pay-per-views around one specific fight, and even
that's
a
how boxing
specific
does
fighter.
it.
Yeah.
And as long as the fights before it are interesting, you're gonna build stars like that anyway. Because like I said, even though this fight card didn't have the name value that some other ones do, like all the fights lived up to like expectation.
I mean, think of, in speaking of boxing, think of Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano and on the Jake Paul Mike Tyson card. Like nobody saw these two girls going out and had the fight. They have so much so they have another fight, and that one we don't need to talk about.
Yeah,
but because that one was definitely not what the first time around was. But still, like you said, you get enough eyes, like people are gonna pay attention and see these fighters. How good they really are on this big pay-per-view stage. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean, let's talk about some of these fights, like piece by piece here, and we'll start with that main event too. Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier 3, and for those who didn't see the result, Max Holloway finally gets a win over Dustin Poirier in that war in the main event by unanimous decision, 2 49-46s and 1 48-47. And then Dustin Poirier obviously gets his nice send-off afterwards. But to talk about the fight specifically at first, I feel like we kind of have a tiny bit here and there. I don't know, because you're saying if you think Poirier was against maybe one of these younger hungry,
yeah.
And then again, Max Holloway's still not that old, which is crazy. He's just been in the UFC for so long. It feels like he's old. But
that's a fair. I think Max's offense is still elite, world class. His last night in particular, I'm watching his footwork and just for someone to be so in and out of each strike like that and be able to land at, and it doesn't even have to be crazy volume either. I mean, he knows exactly where to place each kick, each punch, and it all piles up over the course of a fight. But in terms of Max showing his age and whatnot, the chin is,
I think it's a little different. Yeah. It seems ever since, honestly, really since the Yair fight, he's been starting to get hurt a little more, all over. Because I remember that fight, he was getting kicked a lot in the leg, and you could see it wearing on the way he was standing. And then, obviously Topuria, starched him.
Yeah.
It's just, and even Gaethje, I didn't even think of that. Gaethje dropped him at one point, a little flash knockdown. But I just think in terms of this specific matchup, since we have seen it 3 times now over the course of 13 years, which is crazy. Especially when you look between the second and the third fight, the difference is they're clear in the stats. So you look at the second fight back in 2019, Max Holloway threw a lot more and basically landed the same amount, but just basically literally 12% more accurate. 52% on his significant strikes in this fight, and then in the second fight that he had with Poirier, it was 40%. So just right there, you can see, because if you look at what they landed, Max Holloway landed 181 significant strikes at UFC 236 versus Poirier, and then at UFC 318 he landed 198. So not that many more, but like you said, he was a lot more precise in this one. I think in the second fight he focused a lot more on volume and pace, and in this one he really seemed to pick his shots a lot better, like you were saying, in and out. And Poirier, I don't know, he definitely looked a step slower than he was in his prime, but I still think Dustin is one of the most elite lightweights on the planet right now, and I'd rather a guy step away now when he still clearly has something in the tank versus, the old adage that, we were talking about Chael before, face down, ass up. I was glad to, and embarrassed. Face down, ass up, and embarrassed. That's how most of these careers end. So with this fight, Max Holloway looked amazing. It seemed like he was a step ahead of Poirier the entire way, and it's a little unfortunate because I think everybody wanted to see Poirier win his final fight, but this is MMA. It doesn't work like that all the time. Very rarely does it work like that, and I think that considering what could have happened, if you remember, we were watching in the first round, and Holloway hurt Poirier pretty much a minute into the fight, and we were like, "Oh God, don't knock him out this early. That'd be pretty rough." And then Dustin, being the warrior that he is, he stays in there, and he did some good work in this fight. That guillotine attempt at the end of the second round was crazy.
Dude.
He had that for a split second, but then Holloway was able to jump out of it. It was a fun fight. I think Holloway was the perfect opponent for Poirier, just because I think Holloway had that awareness of like what the moment meant to all the fans. Even after the fight, giving his quick interview and then just being like, "This is Dustin's night. I'm gonna give the mic to him," and that's just all class from Max Holloway. And I was just happy that this is the send off that Poirier got. The only way that it could have been better is if he would have won, but I think in a loss, couldn't have been much better than that. I mean, even all week, just the video packages that they've been showing, and then they showed that one right after the fight. It's just unbelievable, man. Like they really nailed it with this send off for DP, and he deserves it. Paid in full, literally. So it was awesome to see, and it sucks for Holloway in a sense because he's in that thankless position as being the guy who has to fight Poirier in his send off. But I think Max is so beloved that it's not really gonna matter that much in the end. I think nice to get a win.
It's just two future Hall of Famers doing what they do best.
Yeah,
that's the other thing, because you match up Dustin with a younger, like, okay, so Patty, for instance, is a little more way more unproven guy. Like, I know Gaethje was in the mix, but Justin Gaethje, I think at this point, like, a win over Dustin Poirier in his last fight probably doesn't move the needle all that much for him, as much as you probably want to see for a guy who's still very much in the title mix. Like, I think Max anyways was in the title picture even after getting knocked out by Ilia Topuria. I think
and this only strengthens his position. I mean, like I said, DP was still a high-ranked lightweight. Like, this dude was still winning fights.
Gaethje still got a lot more to give than I would say even Max Holloway does. So I think Max got the job done here, and he did what he needed to do. And I just thought the point down at the end too was also really cool.
Yeah.
Poirier
clinched at the end there. He was like, "I'm not getting done like that."
No way, dude.
I think if he would have gotten Gaethje, that would have ruined the whole night.
Zach Pauga tweeted something out about, like, I think, now that I think about it, that probably would have ruined some plans he had for a pretty big special night for him afterwards. So
yeah,
I don't think he's trying to actually lay down, face down, ass up, and
embarrassed. Yeah, man. I'm glad it didn't end like that. I think that this was a fun way to cap off this card too. And then, like, when you look at Poirier's whole career, I mean, this dude was fighting back in the WEC days. That's how long he's been around. I still remember when I was first getting into MMA, watching the Fightville thing that he was featured in. I don't know if I've ever showed you that. That's a little crazy thing that you should check out at some point if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's like it covered.
I mean, how many
Louisiana MMA?
How many names do you really see that are gonna get into the Hall of Fame without even winning the undisputed belt, but just because?
Well, the UFC Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people who didn't win titles in the UFC Hall of Fame.
You're right. I try to give their Hall of Fame more credibility than it actually deserves.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a good job at kind of like separating the wings of it. Like, I like that there's a fight wing.
Yeah,
I just
true.
don't. It's
There's
weird
wings.
to me that there's certain fighters who are called UFC Hall of Famers. But it's like, and then, like I said, Randy Couture isn't.
Yeah,
make that make sense. Diego Sanchez is, but not Randy Couture. How does that work?
Yeah.
But I regardless, you're right though. He is a future UFC Hall of Famer. I don't think anyone would be
But just a guy who never actually won the belt and still fought the names that he did, still has the kind of resume that he does.
I mean, when you look at a lot of people have this conversation,
and not only that, not just the names, but the actual fights themselves and what the names he was able to beat, even some that he didn't beat. I mean, this dude Dustin Poirier was never an easy task for anybody. So
yeah,
it was just.
I just
cool
think
to see
when you have that conversation of like who are some of the best fighters to never win UFC undisputed titles, Poirier is near, if not at the top of that list, and that says a lot about him. That some of the only people he's lost to are guys like Khabib, Islam Makhachev, and we went to the Makhachev
these are legit
fight.
killers.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, I went
absolutely
to
amazing.
Makhachev. I mean, he gave Islam Makhachev the toughest fight of
Yeah.
his career yet.
No, 100%. That's what I'm saying. And like, that wasn't that long ago.
Yep.
So it's good that he chose like a good exit. And then like you just look at the course of his career. I mean, two great trilogies with Max Holloway and then Conor McGregor as well. I think the McGregor one will live in infamy to some people, but I think to the true fans who love DP, I think that's a really bright spot, especially that second fight when he knocked him out in Abu Dhabi. I'll never forget watching that live, man. Just kind of like when you saw McGregor's legs going,
I felt
the
like
calf kicks.
felt like a fever dream.
It did, man. Bald McGregor, nice
Yeah.
McGregor, and then Poirier just knocked him out. First legit knockout of McGregor's career, or knockout loss of his career. I mean, Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker has to be one of my favorite fights of all time. It's probably in my top 5 if I thought of the list.
Wow.
I always think of that first Gaethje fight in 2018. That was a war. Oh my god! And it's just nuts. Like when you think of all the stuff that this guy's done throughout his career, and like I said, paid in full. It's just amazing. A lot of awesome knockouts, bunch of wars. Just truly one of the last of a dying breed in this sport.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, to
bittersweet
do
see
it
him go.
between 155 and 145, like,
Yeah,
not everybody. Like, sure, guys are gonna go to a different weight class, but they're not gonna find any success there. So, like, think of Izzy, for instance, when he went to light heavyweight and Jan beat him, or even Volk having to fight Islam at 155. Not many guys are gonna actually see the success in a different weight class. For Dustin Poirier to see success in 2 weight classes is another thing that shouldn't go without saying.
yeah. Because people forget he was a legit contender at featherweight. Like when Conor McGregor fought him the first time, like that was seen as a pretty big test at the time. And I want to say he fought like some other killers at featherweight back in the day. Let's see. Yeah, he fought Cub Swanson. That's right. I remember he fought Korean Zombie. This is how old this fight was. UFC on Fuel TV 3. Was that
Did you say Fuel
Yes,
TV?
I did. Fuel TV.
What
Dustin
the
Poirier
hell?
fought on the UFC on Fuel card. That's longevity. That's
Yeah,
longevity.
seriously, bro. What? Wow, I've never even heard of that.
Just a legend. I mean, from the WEC to Fuel to fighting on these insane UFC pay-per-views,
Yeah.
headlining against McGregor, Holloway, Gaethje,
Yeah.
Habib, Islam Makhachev,
And then
Oliveira.
getting to end it in his front of his
Home
home
crowd.
crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what a night. What a good ending for it. And then, Lil Wayne walking out with him, too. That was pretty badass. I'm glad they did that. They really handled this perfectly. And, yeah, you just got to give them all credit for that. And
Yeah,
shout
and
out to
Daniel
DP.
Cormier in commentary, and
Yeah, I'm glad that
with him
DP
after.
I'm glad DC was the one who was going in there to interview him, 2 Louisiana boys. That's sick.
Yeah, that was
That was
cool.
really
That was
sick.
really cool. It was just the presentation and whatnot. UFC did a good job in making it feel special and as big and important as it was. So
Yeah, because
It's,
those send-offs are so rare. When you get one, you really got to nail
yeah,
it. You got to nail it.
yeah. So like this is like one of those legacy fights, which nowadays you're seeing all these surging contenders, and every fight has that undisputed title implication. But the fact that the fact that the BMFL was actually on the line for this fight, I think goes to show you, like, yeah, these are just 2 legends, future Hall of Famers that who know each other very well by this point, and one of them's in their last fight, but he's still got 25 minutes to give everything he's got one last time. So
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, man. I mean, just what an ending. And then, like, you look at all the other fights on this card, too, and, we were talking about in the beginning, it's not like it had crazy name value. Uh-oh.
I think something from under the table is starting to
Oh, my God. The secret juice is
make its
out.
appearance.
Hell yeah, man. Let's talk about Paulo Costa a little bit, because it was great to see him get back in the win column and, really return to his old form, this form.
Yeah.
And, I think that Kopylov, obviously, compared to some of his, like, past competition, isn't exactly the same caliber. But I think that this was a good confidence builder for Costa, and this was a fight that was risky to take, and Costa really dominated it, and I thought he really looked almost better than ever in this one. And it puts him in an interesting spot at middleweight because there's a lot of contenders there at the top, and it really depends on what happens in August, I think. Because I think if Dricus du Plessis wins, I think that Paulo's a lot further from a title shot than he would be if Khamzat wins, because I think that there's a storyline there. There has been for years. And we know the UFC isn't above skipping rightful contenders to make a fight that's interesting.
Well, you know what? At least for last night, it was pretty nice to, because now that Paul Costa's ranking is, well, before last night going into the fight 13, like it's kind of nice to see him take on one of the more, names that are still up and coming on the rise and not a bona fide contender like Strickland, for instance. So,
but a risk though, not a tune-up.
Still
fight.
risk,
Like, it's
true.
very
yeah.
risky. You're right. You do have
but
to.
I
give him
mean,
credit.
he absolutely handled Kopylov. I mean, just stifled literally every movement, every strike there was. The way Paulo Costa was splitting these punches with the left hand, and the way he would just lay that cross in there as well without even really setting it up. It was just, he just knew his cross was better, and he's just gonna put it right on the nose of Roman Kopylov. It was seriously like one of those things that you want to, like, if you just got an interest in fighting someday, like, you kind of watch performances like that from Paulo Costa, and he kind of gives you just a world-class showing on between precision and power. It was really impressive, actually. I kind of thought, and maybe Kopylov should have been more inclined to try to get it to the ground more and wrestle, but I didn't think Paulo Costa was going to be able to just dominate like he did, and they thought that part was actually really impressive. So
showed his level in there, man. I think Kopylov still has potential to get up there someday, but Costa shows that he ain't done yet. I mean, he was literally 1-4 in his last 5 fights before this, which is kind of crazy.
He was just landing way harder than Kopylov. Like I said with him splitting the punches, I mean, Kopylov clearly would have the urgency to throw, but Paulo was just gonna throw it back that much harder. And it's not even like he was gonna wait for Kopylov to hit him either. Like Costa was gonna be on the front foot the entire way through and doing the damage. So
he closed the distance really well too with his punches. Like, Kopylov's a dude who really likes to fight at that longer range, and Costa didn't really let him do that. Just constant pressure, and just really good.
It's a good win. It's a big win to,
it puts him back in the conversation a little bit. He's not next by any means, but he's a big enough name in the sport that he's not as far away as some people might think. Especially, like I said, if Khamzat wins in August. Because I still think that you got guys like, Bohalio, Imavov, and then outside of them, though, like, I think he's pretty much going to be right up there at that point. I mean, you got Whitaker fighting Renier de Ridder literally next week. I think that'll obviously impact the middleweight title picture.
I think there's a lot going on at middleweight, to be honest.
It's exciting right now, and I love that we have this DDP Chimaev fight coming up. I think that's a great fight, and either way, I think the UFC benefits from the result because Chimaev is such a big star that, and he's just been running through people. I think that would be a crazy thing if he was champ, and then DDP. I mean, how can you not like that dude? He's so funny outside of the cage, and then in the cage, he has such a weird, quirky but effective style, and it's to go back though. I think that it would be cool if Costa kind of gets himself back into that title picture because I think either of those fights would be interesting.
Yeah.
But what's up, guys? Sorry to interrupt the podcast real quick, but we have a message for you guys.
If you enjoy the Her Handbook's content, you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like on the videos. All sorts of fight content as much as possible, podcasts, interviews, vlogs. We have it all over here, so thank you, appreciate it.
We appreciate you, and like he said, please subscribe. And now, back to the show. To move on now to a welterweight scrap between Daniel Rodriguez and Kevin Holland. This fight was just awesome. I love when we just get like a matchup like this because, like I said, this whole card,
dude.
I see D-Rod versus Kevin Holland on there. I'm like, this is gonna be a scrap.
I can't believe the activity from Kevin Holland this year, which is crazy to say because of what we know about Kevin Holland all the way back to the Apex days and the COVID days. But I mean, dude, like these are legit names like he's fighting, man. I mean, starting with Renee Ritter, obviously, but even Daniel Rodriguez last night, and you saw how it went as well. I don't know if part of me wants to. I feel the narrative I'm gonna go with is part of me feels like Kevin Holland was underestimating D-Rod a little bit, and this wasn't the most technical fight by any means. The most cleanest.
Sometimes you don't need that, though.
You don't need that because you have the drama and you have the toughness from both guys, and that's how I am going about it. I think Daniel Rodriguez kind of stunned Kevin Holland a little bit, and that's why Kevin Holland found himself reeling the first 2 rounds and had to really turn it around, which he did in the last round, but he needed to finish. So
yeah, he went for it, but he didn't get it.
I mean, that's one hell of a chin on Kevin Holland. Like I know that for sure. At 170, I think
that's his weight class,
where he
man.
needs to be. Yeah.
If he really ever wants to make like a legit run, I think it would be at 170. But I think with Kevin Holland, I don't even picture him with that upper echelon right now, like the very top of the welterweight division. It almost feels like Kevin Holland is the modern day Cowboy Cerrone with how he'll fight anybody, anytime, anywhere, and he truly puts his hat in the ring at any given moment. And
it's funny because he actually does wear a cowboy hat.
Yeah, that's true. Texas, man.
That was solid. That was solid stuff from you right there.
Yeah, that wasn't even on purpose. So
the cowboy comparison and throwing the hat in the ring.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Like I said, though, I just don't see him kind of surpassing a certain level at welterweight unless he truly like locks in and doesn't fight anybody at any time. But I think that's part of why people love Kevin Holland. And then part of the reason why people love D-Rod is because he's another dude who comes to scrap. He's always in exciting fights. And now by beating Kevin Holland on a big stage, and now he's on a 3-fight win streak as well, he's just going to be moving up in the welterweight division. Now, I don't know, is Kevin Holland ranked at welterweight right now? If he is, it's probably like on the fringes. Yeah, he's number 13. So D-Rod will obviously take a spot in the rankings, hopefully, on Tuesday. So we'll see what kind of... Who else is up there? Oh, imagine D-Rod versus Carlos Prates.
Yeah, I think D-Rod's straight toughness would be able to get him through any 5-round fight that he might get in the future.
Yeah.
It's just, the striking's just got to be a little more cleaner, and I think he's got to be able to finish guys on the ground as well. I mean, he did have Kevin Holland on the ground at, I can't tell you, I forget how many times exactly, but there were instances. This fight had a little bit of everything.
It was a fun one.
Part of why it was a lot of fun.
Did it win fight of the night? Because I don't think the main event did.
Brendan Allen and Marvin Vettori.
That's right. That's right. That was another good time. This card was just filled with good fights. But this next one we're talking about wasn't the most exciting of all time. Patricio Pitbull, though, finally.
No, yeah, this was a snoozer.
At least he got his win, though. I mean, it's about time. Especially with all the hype going into that Yair Rodriguez fight.
I thought the Ige test was good.
Yeah, it was a good matchup.
It was a good matchup. It was just, I feel like Ige kind of just didn't really know what to do with Pitbull. I don't know if he didn't really know if he wanted to strike with him, if he wanted to go on the ground with him.
And Pitbull's a guy who really lets the fight come to him. He's not known for being
that's
the
most
other
aggressive.
part of it. His output's always low.
Exactly.
So that was just a little bit of a dud.
Pitbull kind of leading the dance. It's going to give you this way more slowed down, methodical matchup kind of fight. And, I think it's fine, obviously, but because of what we know from these two guys, more in Dan Ige's case, but even Pitbull, I mean, his Bellator resume obviously speaks volumes. So we're still waiting to see that fully transfer over to UFC.
Do you think in the fight versus Yair, do you think the lights were a little too bright, or do you think that was more just because of the difference in level?
I think the difference.
Same
in
here.
Level.
Because I know some people have kind of had that opinion, like, oh, do they think maybe that first fight just kind of froze him a bit? But like, not really, because he fought Yair.
Especially with Yair being, a southpaw for one, and then you have just how crazy and unorthodox his style is.
And he's fighting
already.
A dude, who's exactly like you're saying, he's unorthodox, but also like he's a guy who already just doesn't have a lot of output in his fights. And he's the type of dude who's going to land like one big shot or kind of take you down and beat you up or submit you. So that fight, it just seemed like he was frozen in there. And this one, it was just kind of a dud because Dan Ige wasn't really pushing the action. And then Pitbull was kind of just picking his spots. Well-rounded win. I think his championship experience kind of showed because later in the fight, I think he was able to kind of coast a bit and get the victory. But nonetheless, he's now 1-1 in the UFC. And he'll be on like the fringe probably of that top 15 in the featherweight division. And
which is good. It's still good. I'm glad he at least got the win because I'm on record saying that featherweight could really use those guys that are not even ranked yet, but really round out that like 10 through 15 and get these more fresh contenders coming in. Yeah. Because we kind of seen, because this is the testament to Volk's greatness, but we kind of seen the majority of these guys like get their shot and it's for Ilya too. Ilya on his way up also beat a lot of these guys. So we kind of seen these guys, a majority of these guys in big fights and whatnot already, and kind of already get their opportunity. It's just they can't really break the mold, which can't really blame them with between who the last two champions have been. So
the last three,
yeah.
Four. Honestly, all of them have been insane when you really think of it. Because Aldo was dominant for a long time
dude,
too.
That's what I'm saying, man.
The only one who didn't really defend it all was McGregor.
Yeah.
But when he was a featherweight, that's like prime Conor McGregor. So they've had a lot of great champions at that weight class. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that this new blood is kind of needed, so it's nice to see that Pitbull is at least in that top 15 range.
Even when Yair was the interim champion, so...
Yeah. And then now, next week, too, the fight got canceled between Pico and Evloev, which sucks, dude. I was so excited for that. I think Pico's a guy who really has some potential.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah. And Evloev, too, is, that's another guy who you could say you're waiting to see get that title shot.
He just keeps shooting himself in the foot because it's obviously if he's really hurt, which apparently the rumor is that the injury that he has isn't that crazy. So, because I think Aaron Pico said he would want to get it rebooked soon. And so I don't know if that's just him talking or if he knows something. But
that's gotta happen because neither of those guys want to lose ground in this division.
It's a good
fight.
I
say, got guys like Pitbull coming up and all that. So
it just sucks for Pico because that's that we're talking about the injection of new blood. Pico, if he would get a win there over arguably the top contender at featherweight, that could get him right into a title fight with Volk at this point. And so it just sucks that fight isn't going to happen this weekend. But Patricio Pitbull gets a win. Hopefully he'll be in the top 15 on Tuesday. Get him a nice fight coming up next because there's a lot of options for him at featherweight. I put Josh Emmett in my outline. I think that one would be a fun one just because him and Emmett have they both have that one punch type style. So I feel like that could be an interesting one. But then Yusuf Zalal is another one that you could put him up against. Who are some other guys that are ranked in that range? Dan Ige was ranked number 11. So like I said, he's got to be in the top 15 after that. Maybe Steve Garcia. I don't know. I kind of would like to see him in that same range, though. But still, featherweight, there's a lot of contenders, so we'll see what they match him up against. But here's hoping that it's Josh Emmett. 5 rounds for a fight night, that'd be a cool man. No, literally, though. They've both been in enough 5-round fights, and obviously, who knows? I think that could actually benefit Pitbull getting a longer, leash there with 25 minutes instead of 15. I think that kind of suits his style a little more. But to round out the main card, Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber. This fight made me so happy. I just gotta, I don't know what to really say.
Michael Johnson.
He's just a guy who, when he fights these fights, and he'll lose to guys who you think he's gonna beat, but then he'll beat these up. He'll beat a guy like Daniel Zellhuber. He'll have a war with Justin Gaethje. He's knocked out Dustin Poirier, which is that's mind-boggling, especially when you think of some of the guys that Poirier's lost to. It's only the best of the best, and not trashing Michael Johnson, but he just hasn't achieved the same thing. I mean, he's a journeyman at this point in the sport, which isn't a bad thing. I think being in the UFC for as long as he has been.
I mean, yeah, because we're talking exactly. I mean, he made his debut before the 2010s. Let's see.
Yeah,
we just talked about Max and Dustin, but these are two bona fide, surefire Hall of Famers. The fact that Michael Johnson can open this card and take on Zellhuber, who had that absolute war with Ribovics Noche UFC. So Zellhuber's, clearly got some stock going up. And now he's going to take on this journeyman who you would think he should be able to handle.
Michael Johnson, I think, was seen as what was supposed to be like a stepping stone, like a big name that he could get on his resume.
You know what the closing...
I think Zellhuber underestimated him a bit, too. I think that he came into this fight pretty confident and then just ran into somebody who had more experience.
Just has so much more experience, man.
By the way, he got into the UFC in 2010 with the 12th season of The Ultimate Fighter.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's super incredible. Wow!
Shout out to Michael Johnson.
Yes,
what a legend. I love seeing old dog get a win.
That's a big win, and I'm sure the longer UFC fan, the people that have been watching and probably have seen Michael Johnson's whole career, are just looking at this it's like
he's only 39 years young.
Yeah,
He's still got it.
Some of these guys I grew up with, they can still scrap in there and get their hand raised.
Yeah, I love to see it. I always love to see it. I mean, one of the reasons why this was such a bittersweet card is because that main event, you're losing a guy in Dustin Poirier who is part of that really nice generation when the UFC was starting to really boom. And Michael Johnson's another one of those guys who's been around that long, and
I
he
think
showed
it's
why he
cool.
deserves that respect.
I think that's pretty cool that's someone like that to open this card of all cards is.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, what an awesome main card this was, and then the prelims had a lot of insane fights on them too. We were just talking about Brendan Allen and Marvin Vettori, but then Oliveira versus Phillips was a really fun fight too. Atiba Gauthier with that power, man. Whew. He's a middleweight Francis Ngannou at this point. I think I want to see that guy fighting some better competition because I need to see more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he started off his UFC career with a few bangs. And then, speaking of starting your career off with a bang in the UFC, Islam Dulatov, model in Germany, which I thought was interesting. He made his UFC debut. Nice, vicious first-round knockout. And then Jimmy Crute, legend from the Butler Ridge days, watching with Sean. Shout out to Sean. But beautiful first-round armbar from him. That was textbook and just straight nasty to watch. And I loved every second of it. I loved every second of this card, to be honest. From the first fight to the last one, there were a lot of fun fights, maybe bar one.
Yeah.
And, I think, compared... When you think of what people were saying about this card going in, I think it heavily exceeded a lot of people's expectations. But a lot of good matchups. So, but then, that wasn't the only thing that was going on over the weekend. We have a lot of other stuff to talk about, too. I mean, we can talk about the PFL real quick. Mainly just to talk about Dakota Ditcheva. And I think that could be argued that she might be the best female 125er in the world right now. I think, obviously, you can't put anybody really over Valentina when she's the champion. Just from her legacy alone, all the people that she's beaten, she's just earned that. But I don't know. I would love to see Dakota Ditcheva fight some of the best in the world. I mean, we kind of got a taste of that when she fought Talia Santos and just put a clinic on against her. And in this fight versus Inaba, just on the feet, she proves once again that she's just so nasty. It's just violence in there every time. I love it. I mean, they could have stopped this fight a lot earlier with the way that she was beating the crap out of this poor girl. It was just brutal. And now she's 15-0. She announced that she's re-signed with the PFL. Respect the loyalty there, but at the same time, I hope that they don't waste her career like they have with some fighters. Because the PFL, they do a really bad job at keeping their best fighters active and maintaining interesting storylines. And I just hope that they don't do her a disservice by, keeping her on the show. I mean, I don't even know how long it's been since her last fight. It was maybe November of 2024. I think that's
really?
The end of the tournament, right? That was probably her last fight.
Wow, yeah.
So I think it's usually October, November. Now we're in July of 2025. I mean, the first half of the year, and you didn't have your biggest star fight once when she was completely healthy. I think we've said enough about the PFL. I don't want to get into that. I more just want to talk about how awesome Dakota
when we
is.
go on when we get started about the PFL as a whole, then it goes on to a negative tangent. So
yeah, it can go on for a while too.
Yeah, so.
But I just think that right now she's the face of the organization. Because it's not like Francis Ngannou has been fighting much. And I think that her being the star of the company is a good thing for them. I will give them this. They do a good job at marketing her. They post about her a lot on social media. They do a lot of interesting video packages with her. But also I think some of that is her being her. She's a very flamboyant personality. She's very confident, and plus she's super fun to watch. But yeah, it's one thing to be good at marketing her. It's another thing to be good at booking her fights. So I hope that they get some interesting fresh matchups in there, because you don't want her to go down that same path of being called a can crusher for the next 5 years until she, maybe will eventually leave and go to the UFC to fight the best of the best at her weight class, which I still think will probably happen at some stage. I think she's going to take the Kayla Harrison route, just keep beating these girls and make the demand even higher until you can go over and get a payday out of it. But yeah, shout out to her, because that was a really nice win. And then, dude, we're not just talking MMA. We're talking boxing. We're talking karate combat today. Yeah. We have a lot on our plate. But to start with the boxing stuff, when I went on Instagram and I saw Usyk just starch Daniel Dubois, that was pretty nice, because when that fight got booked, the big storyline, obviously, when you think of their first fight, it was the low blow. Was it a low blow? Was it a body shot by Dubois? Now I think that debate, can be put to bed, because Usyk just viciously knocked him out. And at this point, who do you even give him? Tyson Fury obviously wants a third crack at Usyk. He's going to come out of retirement, he says. If they book it, I think it'd be exciting. I mean, their first two fights were really fun to watch, but at the same time...
Well, I mean, to ask that question, to me that just screams number one pound for pound in the world.
He's up there, man. I don't know. I mean, he's the definition of pound for pound, doing what he did at cruiserweight, and then to come up at heavyweight and beat some of the best multiple times. I love watching this guy fight. He's a great representation of heavyweight boxing. And then you go talk about another fight, Mario Barrios versus 46-year-old Manny Pacquiao, and they fight to a draw. Pacquiao, now that was fun to watch. Growing up, when we grew up, obviously Mayweather, Pacquiao, Cotto, Margarito, all those guys, they were the biggest stars in the sport, because Klitschko was just dominating at heavyweight, and he didn't have as much of a exciting, fan-friendly style. And just to see Manny Pacquiao come back at 46 in a fight where the odds were so far against him, being that old and in such a low weight class, it's crazy that he still has the hand speed that he has. The footwork was what I noticed was a lot slower, but his hand speed was definitely still there, and you could see that Barrios a few times, I think, was stunned by how many times Pacquiao was able to hit him. But for the most part, I think Barrios did a good job on Pacquiao's exits because, like I said, that footwork being a little bit slower. I think him getting out after those combinations was slower, and Barrios was able to land some jabs and combinations on those. And his jab looked good throughout the fight, honestly. It was just, it was cool. Like, as a big fan of Manny Pacquiao, someone who grew up with Manny Pacquiao, what an achievement to see something like that. So, yeah, I was blown away by. Did you catch like any of that fight or no?
Not really, no.
Yeah, because it kind of got swept away with all the stuff that was going on over the. Like, I thank God I remembered it like right before, and yeah, I still didn't catch it live though. I had to watch like full highlights.
Tough.
But I didn't watch like because I hate it. Some of these promoters, they put out like 3-minute highlight videos. I'm like, the fight is 36 minutes long. Give me more than 3 minutes. So I watched like a 15-minute one that.
There you go. That's better.
Yeah, it had like a lot from each round. I was like, this is as far as they can go without getting copyright struck. So fair enough, fair play. But yeah, I was happy that Manny Pacquiao got at least a draw out of that because we've been watching combat sports for long enough to know that like when you're coming back from years off, especially in your mid-40s, the odds of you doing well are not very high. So to see Pacquiao do that against a legit champion, really cool to see. And I wonder what's next for him, to be honest, which is crazy to say about a 46-year-old, but cool thing to see. And then one of the last things we want to talk about here, got to talk about our guy Zach Pauga, friend of the show, fighting in the Karate Combat heavyweight tournament, one-night heavyweight tournament. And, we were talking about the gimmick of the BMF belt in the beginning of the pod. If there's anything that screams BMF, it's participating in a one-night tournament in 2025. And our guy goes 2-1, loses in the final to Robelis de Spain, which, that guy's an insane striker. There's no shame in that, especially when you've won 2 fights already in the same night. So shout out to our guy Zach for doing that. That was really badass. I enjoyed watching that.
Got robbed that last fight.
Yeah, so let's recap it though, because there probably weren't like a lot of people who, at least not as many people who not as many people watched this as they did probably the UFC pay-per-view. So, Zach Pauga's first fight is against Alan Belcher, who obviously UFC veteran, and that was an interesting one for them to start him off with. Like when I saw that on the bracket, I was like, "Oh, he's getting a guy with a lot of high level experience. This could be a tough one." And then Zach Pauga knocked him out, so that was really cool to see. That's a big name on Zach's resume now. And then the second fight versus I think it was Daniel James. Yeah, Daniel James. That was a really good fight. Went the distance, 3 rounds. And you could tell that Zach was pretty tired after that one. Yeah. And how could you not be? I mean, you've already had 2 fights. So, he gets up against Robelis de Spain, who had a lot shorter fights, definitely, for his leg of the bracket. And, yeah, I mean, he was dominating Pauga really well in the first part of the round, but then it seemed like he lost a little steam towards the end.
I would love to just see a fight between those two just on its own. Like, give them both the camp and just let them go, because Robelis de Spain was picking up the steam he was when he was in UFC. Before that, obviously, he crashed and burned, and
now trick pony.
Yeah,
really.
I just think with both of them being at heavyweight, I think there's a lot of room for fireworks there. I mean, we know Zach's knockout power, obviously, but I mean, Zach too. If it needed to go to the ground, I think Zach would handle himself there too. I mean, I think that matchup would actually be pretty fun to watch.
On its own.
On its own, yeah.
Yeah, because he has to be said. Zach went in there right at 30 minutes after a legit war. So that's a tough ask, and you can only imagine.
And Zach said if it did go to the ground, you have to do damage.
Which I like about their rules. Yeah. Karate Combat has cool rules for that, and I think that he had an interesting style too versus Despain, because one of the things that sucks about watching Despain sometimes is that his striking style is so precise and technical, but the second it turns into like a legit dogfight in like that really close range, he tends to struggle. And Zach had his moments, like you said, sort of on the ground, more so like on the wall of the pit. By the way, I think the pit is the best thing that anyone. Seriously though, like I think it allows for more like freedom up against, because the fence, there's not really, you're still up, but when you're kind of on that like tilt that the karate combat pit is at, it's interesting because you're kind of working on the ground, but you're also still standing.
Yeah.
So I just think it makes that in between a little more interesting. And plus, you can't really run in the pit, like, because you can't really go up the wall or anything. It's just an interesting way. I like that for I don't know if I want to say a venue, but like sort of a venue. So, like, you hear Joe Rogan talk a lot about, like, how he always says, I think they should have people fighting on football fields. I'm like, all right, you've heard that. He says that on every single MMA show. He said it on every single MMA show for the past, like, 10 years. We know. You want to have it on a basketball court, dude. Like, it's never going to happen. Like, so, I think that Karate Combat does the best that they could possibly do.
Joe Rogan absolutely needed to be called out for that.
Yeah, because I love his MMA shows, because I think he does a good job at interviewing the fighters and getting a lot of interesting info out of them, like in terms of their training habits, like their mentality, just all that stuff. He's a great interviewer, but sometimes like he'll just repeat it's always the same things. It's MMA fights should take place on a football field or a basketball court. The UFC should have bought Trevor Whitman's gloves. Oh my God! And Benson Henderson innovated with the calf kick. I just can't. Man.
That is so funny.
I like Rogan. I know a lot of fans give him crap, but I think Rogan.
You could call them
awesome.
the Rogan cliches.
Yeah, he has them. He has his flaws, but yeah. So I like the way Karate Combat is set up. But yeah, they get to the end of the first round though. Zach Pauga and Robelis Despain. And that fight was just starting to get interesting, but obviously Zach's eye was really swollen. Doctor stoppage, which sucks, man. Really sucks. He posted the picture from South Park. I didn't hear no bell on his Instagram story after. Like, truly, like, because that fight was really just getting started. I think the way that he was kind of making it ugly at the end of the first round, I think if he could have done more of that as the fight went on, who knows how it would have gone. So... But nonetheless, our guy winning 2 fights in one night, that's some BMF shit.
It's just that, yeah. I mean, it's just that you fight those 2 fights already prior, and even the second one right before the last one, going the way it did, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, let the dude fight till he drops.
Yeah, man. I mean, that... We're already in, like, that old school...
Like, the fact that even... That took place, Kumite, with 3 fights in one night.
In 2025.
Like that, in 2025.
And safely. They deserve a lot of credit for that. They did it very safely.
Progress.
Yeah, I would love to see more of that. I think Karate Combat did a really cool thing this past weekend on Friday. And then now, like, they had this tournament. Robelis gets the victory, wins the 3 fights. And now he has a matchup with Sam Alvey, the champ. The best heavyweight karateka in the world.
Bellis is just coming to take out all of our dudes, man.
He's not. He's an enemy of
the
show.
He's an enemy right now.
No, but he's fun to watch, man. I love his striking style. It's just, it can be a little one-dimensional at times. And, I just talked about how Robelis kind of struggles when the fight gets ugly. And Sam Alvey is the type of fighter who really excels at making a fight ugly. And I think that he's very tough. And if he can kind of get in that close range with Robelis Despain, I think he has a lot of power. And I think especially if it gets in that range where Zach had it towards the end out of the first round on the wall of the pit, I think that Alvey could really do some damage there. That's a fight that I'm very excited for, and I definitely will be tuning in whenever Karate Combat does it. But, we talk a lot about the UFC. We talk some boxing. It's very rare that we have some time to give, like, certain other promotions like really their shine, so I'm glad that our guy fought on this card, because I really enjoyed watching it. Karate Combat, they deserve a lot of credit for a cool innovation there.
Yeah.
So outside of that, not any more fights to talk about. The only other thing I have in my outline before I kind of preview next week a little bit, shout out to Funky Ben Askren wearing
Shout out to Ben, dude.
Funkomania shirt.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, Yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about that, but that first video update that he gave, first of all, I mean, just great to see him awake and talking. It was also very just shocking to see him like that and, speaking in that way, obviously.
Yeah,
Life
lost
is
that
precious.
much weight.
Yeah, 147 pounds, he said at one point. He's gaining the weight now, though. Like, his most recent video update, he looked a lot better, which is cool. I'm sad he didn't keep the mustache. That little handlebar he had going was sick. But, all jokes aside, like, Ben Askren is the man. I mean, how much of a real fighter is that guy going through hell and back like that? I mean, he said from May 28th to July 2nd, he doesn't remember a single thing. I mean, he got a double lung transplant. And I love the second video that he put out, too, talking about how there was a moment where he felt bad for himself. He's like, I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never smoked weed. Like, why do my lungs get taken from me? And then he was like, then I said to myself, well, what is that going to do for my future? I can't live in that. They're gone. There's nothing I can do about it now. Just got to keep living my life. And this is a dude who's had that mentality the whole way through. That's why he was such a high-level competitor in his day. I mean, I still remember when he lost to Masvidal. Obviously, I think that was arguably the most humiliating way you could probably lose a fight. And then he went on Ariel pretty much right after. And Ariel was like, did that suck to lose in that way, like the record? And he's like, yeah, of course it sucked, but like, what am I going to do? Like, he beat me. Like, he's like, I'm not going to cry and ask for a rematch. He just knocked me out with the fastest, knockout in UFC history. And he's a dude who, he has a very good, brain for this
perspective.
Stuff. Yeah. I think a lot of people can learn from Ben Askren, whether it's be fighters from like his competitive days or even just in life, seeing him just go through this and still be on the other side of it and, showing a lot of strength. It's crazy. I mean, like I said, that first video I saw, it was shocking in a lot of ways. I was super happy, but because just to see him, awake and talking, but it was still a lot, that was bittersweet. And then to also just, I don't know. Like I said, it puts life into perspective. That's for sure. You're like, man, it could really just get taken away like that. And Ben's really lucky to still be with us, and thank God that he is, because he's adds a lot to not only MMA but also wrestling. I mean, everybody in the wrestling community talks about how important Ben Askren is and how much he's given to the sport. And I know he wants to continue giving to the sport of wrestling. So it'll be great to kind of follow his recovery, and hopefully that all goes well. But what a week, man. I mean, we just talked UFC, karate combat, boxing, PFL. I mean, what a week. And then next week is going to be huge too. UFC Abu Dhabi, Rob Whittaker versus Renier de Ridder. Huge fight at 185. And this card is also just stacked. Otherwise, dude, we were talking a little bit about it before the show, but Petr Yan versus Marcus McGee, that's a good fight. People shouldn't sleep on Marcus McGee. That's a risky fight for Petr to take. Shara Bullet is coming back versus Marc-Andre Barriault. That should be interesting because Barriault's a very tough guy to get out of there, and I think he can test Shara. Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov, that's a fight that people should look out for that I think is kind of being slept on. Bryce Mitchell moving down to bantamweight, fighting Said Nurmagomedov. That should be a really fun one. Anytime Muslim Salikov is on a card, I'm tuning in.
Yeah.
So that should be really interesting. Davey Grant is back. I didn't even see that. He's fighting Damon Blackshear. Amanda Hebus versus Tabitha Ricci. I'm sure the MMA fans are very happy about that matchup for varying reasons. But yeah, man, this is. Oh, and Marcus Buchecha obviously just got signed by the UFC. He's fighting, and that should be a really interesting one for the jiu-jitsu fans out there. So really fun card coming up in Abu Dhabi. Big summer for the UFC, man, and I don't think we're going to run out of things to talk about anytime soon, that's for sure. But hope you guys enjoyed. We had a lot to talk about today, so we really hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please subscribe, and until next week, see y'all.
Feel just like a superstar. Doing all these drugs, I don't think I'm gonna see tomorrow. Living fast, brand new dash up in a foreign car. It's the type of shit that you be doing when you go hard.